Hello, Mzansi. Welcome back to Game On. Now, we promised you a very special interview in the last segment of the show, and I'll give you a clue. He's the only South African to have won a UEFA Champions League trophy. Still, Bafana Bafana's top goal scorer. Benny's in the 18 area. Yes, of course, we've got South African football royalty in Benni McCarthy. Benny, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Firstly, for many of the youngsters, they'll know you as Benny playing overseas, but can you take us back to the beginning in how your career started out in Cape Town?
Hey, Sizwe, thanks for having me again today, my man.
Sure.
Really good speaking to you. No, like I said, my journey started like every other kid in South Africa, playing on the streets, playing at school, playing in the grassroots football. And I think that's basically just where the love for football came. And in my case, football was a way of life to keep me off the streets from joining the gangs, because when you're from the Cape Flats, that's the easiest route to go into, so football kept me on the straight and narrow. And then my talents just developed, and then playing for my local clubs, Young Pirates, when I was under 10s and 11s. And then I moved on to the Cape District Union, where I joined a club called Crusaders. And I had probably one of the best managers ever that used to be a former gangster, but he took kids because he didn't want kids to go into that route. So he started his own little football team, and then he made us play in the gangster leagues, in the tournaments. And I guess, so from there, I just slowly started making up my name. And then when I had the opportunity, then I joined a team called Seven Stars. And then from Seven Stars onwards, I went to represent South Africa at the under 20 national team levels. And we lost in the African Nations Cup under 20 finals, but I was voted best player of the tournament and top goal scorer. And I think all the European clubs then came calling, because those are the tournaments that these big teams go and find unrecognizable talents, and I guess I was one of that. And then my journey then took me to Amsterdam, Holland, where I joined Ajax Amsterdam, and the rest is history.
History, like you say, and I do remember, mid-90s or so, and we saw you briefly, like you say, Seven Stars, where you started to make a name for yourself here in South Africa, then Cape Town Spurs before you left. Briefly, we saw you for a short space of time. You're still a teenager. What's the difference between your generation back then in the type of players that we're exporting abroad to the generation now that doesn't quite go abroad as often as your guys did? What's the difference?
I think the biggest difference, Sizwe, has to be the social media platforms now, because I think football players are brands now. They have their own brands, they have their own company. So for them, it's about the image that matters, and so what gives you the platform almost take a backseat to having to have a good Instagram profile, having to have a good Twitter profile and all that, but you forget what gives you that platform, which is the main attraction, and that's the football. And when we started coming up, there was no such thing as Twitter and Instagram and that. So we just had to put our heads down, and if you want to make it on the training pitch and in matches, that's where you put the hard graft in, and that's where you knuckle down, and then you see if you've got what it takes to make it, and that's the biggest difference now. And I think football players just have to realize, the most important thing in life is not your image. It's not people remembers you for what you did when you were at your job, and that was being a footballer. So you have to try and be the best footballer that you can possibly be, and everything else will come naturally by itself, instead of making sure that you look smooth and it's all straightened and it's all white, and like the image, putting the image up there, but then your job, which is being a football player, is the one that suffers the most. And that was the difference between the two generations.
Now, also your generation, the special players like your Benni McCarthy's, your Romarios, I'll put you in that bracket. You guys were known to have a bit of a chip on your shoulder, outspoken, either with the national team or abroad. I remember you taking on the whole Manchester United team once. Do you have any regrets when you look back at your career? Any regrets at all?
You know what? I don't think I would change a single thing about it because that's what makes me. You know, like obviously growing up, I had a really hard time. I had a tough time in the neighborhood where I came from. So you kind of had to survive or sink or swim, you know? So, and for me then to make it from that hardship and then able to take care of my family and still to try and be grounded and humble as I can. But the minute I step on that field, I step on that field because I know what I took to get there. So of course I have to have a little bit of a chip on my shoulder. But it wasn't an ugly arrogance. It was just an arrogance that I'm here and I'm going to show people what I'm about, what I can do. But it was also that I had the belief and the confidence in myself that I was better than anyone. Doesn't matter who I faced, I was better than them, you know? And then once after the game, if they got the better of me, well, hats off to them. But during that 90 minutes, there was nobody better than myself on that pitch. And that was how I believed in myself and how I created this demon. So I would be lying if I say I have any regrets and if I would have changed a thing or two about how I was, no. I would maybe change the fact that I never got the opportunity to join Chelsea or Man United with the opportunity. The opportunity was there. I never fought hard enough for it, you know. I was just one of those humble players that if the club let me go, then I'll go. But I don't want to force my way out of a club to join a better club. If I could change that, I would fight and I would genuinely force my way out, because if you play for a club like Porto or Blackburn, yes, at that point in time, it was great clubs. But when a Chelsea comes calling, you go because you're gonna go into a much elite league, but you're going into a team that competes to win the Premier League. You go into a team that competes to win the Champions League. And that's what you wanted as a player, you know. You wanted to be at the best, amongst the best players, to test yourself even better. So that would probably be one of the things that I would change. But personality-wise,
Now, I've had the pleasure of speaking to some of your teammates here in South Africa, when you obviously came back to play with Orlando Pirates, which was big news then. Had the joy to speak to guys like Opa Manyisa, and they speak of the influence you had in the change room and how you inspired them and the great influence you had. Many of us didn't know these stories until we spoke to them. Tell us about your experience coming back to play for Pirates, what that was like, and just overall showing the South African fans what you could still do upon your return. What was that like for you?
Yes, of course. Like, you know, when you are like, I'm bread and buttered South African. There's no two ways about it. I've been in Europe for almost 20 years. My Cape Townian accent is still here. That will never change. So I'm South African, pure-hearted. But yes, I ended up with different mentality, adapting to the European ways, to the countries that I've moved to play football in. I tried to learn their ways, to understand their culture and speak their language, so that people would accept me as a foreigner, outsider coming into their country, and adapt to their ways, and then they warm to you. So that was always my approach. So obviously I've learned all these different traits from different countries, and mindset and mentality, and like what do you have to do if you want to improve as a player, you know? So then when I came back to South Africa, we we've never been outside South Africa, so all you know is that mindset, that mentality. So we were a little bit still in our bubble, in our forms, in our way. So for me to then come back with having all the knowledge that I've picked up and how people are, like what professionalism is about, and then in South Africa, because that was all the guys knew. So I had to try and open their minds a little bit to different ways. Like you can't just want to be the same. If you want to be better, if you want to achieve way more, you got to be open to different things and new ways and changing the way that we are as South Africans to try and see, okay, how can I become like the Ronaldos, the Messis, the Neymars of today's modern football. So that was just what I was trying to implement and to let the guys know, okay, so this was the way the guys used to train. We don't come to training smelling of alcohol, like you've been on a bender the night before, and then the next day you've got training, and then you're still half hangover. So I wasn't having, so I would come in, be in early in the morning and then do my activations, my gym work, because yes, I was getting older now. So I had to do things a little bit different. So I was just preparing myself. So I'm all these years of being abroad and then coming back and then being a training. And then there was players that comes like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. We're supposed to be at the training ground at 9 o'clock, clock in, and then we get ready. Players would come into training like 10 minutes before training started. And I was like, what? And Pirates were meant to be one of the big teams, and that was the mentality. So I think then I just put my granddad hat on, and I said, listen, if I have to start being here, if I have to start beating players up, because they're not disrespecting the badge, they're not just disrespecting the club, but they disrespecting their teammates, and me in particular, that's probably won more than any of them, more than what the whole team could put together. They have not won what I've won. And I'm able to be here on time, early, do extra work. And then players want to come in from a night out, smelling of alcohol, and he's late, and he doesn't even apologize. So that was the end of it. And then I just started being really like, what the coach should have done, I was doing. If you don't want to be here, if you want to be here, go and have fun with your mates on a night out, drink and piss your life away, then good luck to you. But you're not coming here and disrespecting things. So I just kind of set the standard a little bit for everyone, because if we want to achieve, if we want to be successful, if we want to win things, that is the way that we have to be. We can't be ill-disciplined and expect still to win things. It doesn't work like that, because Chiefs, Sundowns, all those teams, they were catching up to Pirates. So if we don't change the way we do things, we were gonna get lost, and those were the advice that I was giving players, and it worked.
Now, you talk about setting your standard, and as far as your international career goes, you set the standard early, that you were a goal scorer and you were amongst the best in the continent in the way you introduced yourself at an AFCON to all of Africa and the rest of the world, and continue that throughout your career. Let's talk about your international career, your Bafana experiences, the good, the bad, and especially some of the difficult moments you had with them, maybe behind the scenes that may have made the average South African misunderstand you somewhat. Would it be fair to say you were somewhat misunderstood in some cases?
Yeah, of course. My time with the national team has been amazing. I could not undone what's been done already. I've achieved a lot of things. But yeah, there is moments where when you look back and you think, wow, if only that were different, or if only I wasn't as outspoken as I was, maybe it would have had a different effect. But if you had put anyone in my situation, in my position, it would have probably have been the same outcome, because you could not every international game almost. I mean, 9 times out of 10, every time you arrive at the airport, yeah, the booking is there. They have my name, booking reservation, but no payments. So then I have to pay 50, 60,000 for a ticket to fly back to the national team every single time. And then when you go, the national team has to reimburse you. And then it's a problem waiting for your money. And it wasn't like that I was asking them for money. It was my own money because I paid my ticket to fly back, and now I must chase the national team for my money. And then yes, people would say, but you were earning a lot of money. That's not the point. The point is you come like wanting to play for your country. If everyone else is there, just because you earn what you earn doesn't mean that they don't have to treat you different from everyone else, because you get money, so for you it's no problem. So yeah, it gets a little bit tiring when the organization is like that, and then you get to a point where it's like, listen, if the next time, if I'm getting to the airport, if my flight is not booked or my ticket is not paid and I have to pay again, I'm just gonna say thank you, I go home, and then it becomes the national problem. It becomes the national team's problem because they didn't do the reservations, they didn't book my flight, and that's so I'm not gonna do someone else's job every time for them. So when I started doing that, then I don't pitch up to the camp, and then it's like, oh, Benny, but I didn't have a ticket to fly, so I'm not every time forking out 60 grand for a flight. You understand, all the time. Yeah. So those were part of the problems. And then also we knew what the federation was getting. So they had a bonus structure in place for winning bonus, appearance bonus, and stuff. So when you arrive in camp, when it's 2 days before a match, and then all of a sudden the bonus structures change. Now then it becomes a situation where the team either gets split in parts, but we are a national team. What we do at our clubs is what happens there. When we come to the national team, we won. There's no difference. I'm no different from the player that plays for Polokwane City, AmaZulu, for Cape Town City, for Black Leopards. We are all the same, there to represent, to make sure that the country goes on a high. We win games, we get success for the country. But now it get put, Benny, because you playing in Europe, you in category A. So you get, say for example, 80,000 appearance. If you start the game, 80,000 appearance. If you win, 150,000 rand bonus for win bonus. Okay, good. And then you find there's maybe 4 players who plays for Kaizer Chiefs, for Pirates, for Sundowns, because they play locally. They in the starting 11, but they don't fall into category A. They fall into category C. So they get 20,000 appearance bonus and 50,000 for winning. But he's playing in the same starting 11 as me. But why am I getting that money and they getting their money? So everyone in the end would say, it works for me. But no, so for me, that wasn't right. That didn't sit right with me because we are all there the same. So I wanted that everyone should be equal, you know? And then when I open my mouth, then Ben is a problem because he doesn't just accept. He's getting good money. So why is he complaining about other players? But that was not who I was. You know, we the same. So those were all the problems that was created in the national team. And because some players were happy because as long as you get full bonus, you get full money, you're happy. You don't care about the next guy. But I know in 10 years' time, when we all retire, those players that you used to call your teammates, that was your friends, they have to go and look for jobs outside, and then you sitting in your nice house, happy there, and I wasn't having that. So everyone should try and have a good future when they stop playing football. And I was just trying to make sure that these players were getting enough money so that they one day when they stop playing football, they don't have these kind of problems. But yeah, Benny was the problem, so people wanted me out so that they could continue with those things. And yeah, and I was an outspoken guy, so that was always what was creating the problems. And I was always in the center of it because I wanted to put all the wrongs, I wanted to put right, and there was people that was pushing against it. So yeah, so I would be portrayed as this person that, then in the end, when it just became, then I just thought, you know what, maybe it was just better if I remove myself from the national team. Then, you know, there won't be those kind of problems, whatever it is. If they want to brush it under the carpet and players would accept that, and then it's fine. But at least there won't be no Benny to take all the blame, to take, you know, to get all the shots fired at. And that was one of the reasons why I retired from international football, because I just couldn't anymore. Because yeah, Benny was always the problem child. But if only if people had known the problems that was caused, that I was fighting for, then people would have had a different view, and people would have not been like, even South African fans that turned against you didn't know what was happening and why I was the problem. You understand? So, but that one day, it will come out, and people, hopefully, then I will have peace.
You know, I think the beautiful thing about the whole situation is at the end of your playing days, once you got to explain it, and as you're explaining it now, we as South Africans who enjoyed watching you play then, and maybe we're a little hurt not to see you playing for the national team, we appreciate you more now that we understand what that issue was about. But let's take it back to the football field. Now, I have to ask you, you played against some of the best on the continent, some of the best in the world. Your toughest defender that you came across, locally or internationally, can you tell me? And also, who's the best player you ever played with or against, locally or internationally? But let's start with the toughest defender.
The toughest defender, locally, would have to say, because I didn't have such a long career playing locally, but every single time when I used to come to the national team, I would say to the coach, please, put me in Andrew Rabutla's team. I don't want to play Joseph Life.
Sure.
Joseph Life, he was the scariest player I've ever encountered. I would rather not train if I'm not in his team. Yeah. Because I know I'm gonna see stars somewhat during that training session. This guy was going to get you. He was the scariest bloke on the football pitch. So yeah, Andrew Rabutla would be one of the players that I was petrified of. And in Europe, yeah, I played against really good defenders. I think Ricardo Carvalho, my teammate at Porto, and when he joined Chelsea, yeah, he always gave me hell. He was one player that I just had no answers for this guy. Sure. He was just every single time he was on another planet, and he used to make me change my position so that I don't play against. I would sometimes go play right wing, left wing, or number 10, but nowhere near being a striker because he was just immaculate. And then Nemanja Vidic. Vidic was the Andrew Rabutla of Europe. Joseph Life. Yeah. They would be the three players that I most feared in my career.
Now, the beauty of life is you come back after your playing days now and you start to coach, make a bit of history with Amazulu, and carry on to go work out with Manchester United as well. Talk to us about life after Benny the player, Benny the coach, and how that experience has been. Especially including your time at Amazulu as well and your Champions League experience there.
Yeah, listen, it was quite a journey, you know, from as a footballer, everything is easy. Everything is easy. People know the type of player that you are, so they want to have you in their team. So teams would normally, if there's an opportunity to sign that player, you would get signed up in a heartbeat. So I would never find myself where I don't have a team or where teams don't want me. But then as a coach, it's a completely different animal. You go for interviews and you get disappointed no matter who you are or what you've done as a player. As a coach, it's just the complete opposite. But you know that you strive on that. So the transition has been a little bit difficult because now you kind of have to almost like you have to start to learn to ride a bike all over again. You know the game inside out, but being a coach, you learn different things. You learn now how to manage individual players, how to deal with players, and you can't just be a stubborn, hot-headed when you are an individual as a player. So you gotta have different means and ways to go about it. So I had to do that. So I had to sacrifice 5 years of my life to go through the coaching process. I've done my level 2, level UEFA B license, and then went on to the UEFA A license, and then the pro license, and management courses. So so I think it was well worth it because then it kind of like fulfilled I know as a player, now I also know all the necessary needs to be a coach, you know, so, and tactical, how to set up tactically and how to conduct training sessions and how do you plan for matches and how do you specific training sessions to suit a specific team that you play. So all those kind of tactical ability things I've learned on the courses, so which was good. And then when I got the opportunity to coach at Cape Town City, which was amazing, but it was still a very big eye-opener because it was my first job as a coach, you know, and I think I did fairly well as a novice coach. But then when I got to join Amazulu, I wasn't a rookie anymore. I was someone that, okay, now I know, at least I don't want to make the same mistakes I did at Cape Town City, what I didn't know there. I've learned a little bit, so I've taken it to Amazulu. And yes, and I've taken it to new heights. And that was incredible to achieve what I've achieved at a team that's not known to be in the top 10, let alone finish second in the league, you know? And then qualifying for CAF Champions League was incredible experience. So yeah, I'll take those experiences with me for a long time, but then that kind of set me up really good for when the chance come to go and coach at Man United. So it was just how to see how different things were, like, you know, like at Amazulu, I fought to get in an analyst, you know?
Yeah.
So eventually the president gave in and I got the analyst. So you didn't have to do all the analysis and everything by yourself. So you had a little bit of help with an analyst, which was fantastic. And then I walked into Man United, the office. I was like, wow, unbelievable office. I says, no. We on that, we on there, we not here. I was like, what do you mean? No, these are the analysts. And I was like, what? So the analyst had an office that probably most team managers won't have in South Africa. And there was like 12 dudes sitting in with the latest technologies, computers, drones, and everything. And I was like, oh, this is the analyst guys. And they, so then went into the office. The coach's office was incredible. The manager's office was just next level stuff. So I was like, oh, wow. So this is what coaching is. This is when you were a manager, a head coach in Europe, this is what the life is like. I was like, now I'm inspired to really want to become a coach because I can get used to this.
Yeah.
And it was just incredible to see the different levels of professionalism and how things is done, and like the amount of analysis that goes on, like the support that the head coach has was incredible. So yeah, so I'm taking all that experience and everything that I've learned working with world-class players. Yeah, it was just a complete eye-opener, and it kind of really made me itch to want to coach again, because yes, I enjoyed what I did working at Man United, but now I think I'm ready. I'm ready for that challenge to be in the driving seat again, to now take what I've learned at Man United and then take the helm of a team again, and then just do what I've done at Amazulu, but 10 times better.
Benni, firstly, I'd like to say thank you for your time here on the Game On. Also, you've been a great example as a football player, as a young football player, as a professional, as an international, also as a coach. So thank you as well for your contribution to the South African game, to the international game, and continue being Benni McCarthy. We love your accent. We love the fact that it's still South African, and see you soon. Thanks so much for your time, mate.
Sizwe, absolute pleasure again speaking to you. Like I said, thanks for hosting me.
Sweet.
And yeah, great chat, and
sure.
Hope to see you
soon, my man. Thanks, yeah.
Take care, my brother.